Good afternoon, everybody. This is KC Reginald Jr.
The man J-Dub in the building.
Welcome to UnderDawg Sportz. Welcome to the show, everybody. Again, it's KC Reginald Jr. with my main man, J-Dub.
Yes, sir. Welcome. Happy draft weekend, ladies and gentlemen.
The draft is fully underway, more than halfway over at this point. Justin wants to do some grades already. Not sure I'm ready for that, but, I can make it work. And look, I can make it work. I'm pretty, I can get there.
Hey, you made it work with the predictions. You could definitely do that. Exactly. We know who they are now.
Yeah, we know who the kids are. The biggest news of the weekend so far, outside of the draft, is Laramie Tunsil is now the highest paid offensive lineman in NFL history.
3 years, $66 million, $50 million up front for a guy that has been sitting in free agency for the last 2.5 months. Free agency started free agency started for all this Corona madness happened. And he's been sitting, it just was the start of it. And he's been sitting there just to get paid that much money is absolutely ridiculous. I don't understand how, especially with Trent Williams, which we'll go into that also. That's also breaking news. Was available and for a more reasonable price, but the Texans paid $50 million to a guy who led the league in false starts and only had one Pro Bowl. It's just amazing to me.
I'm glad you just said what you said about Trent Williams, because remember Tunsil was traded for like 2 first-round draft picks. Trent Williams,
right.
a former All-Pro in this league, one of the best linemen in football, was traded for a 5th and next year's 3rd. But Laramie Tunsil was traded for, if I'm Bill O'Brien, I make that trade. If I got to just give you a 5th, or hell, even a 4th, I got 3/4 because of my bad trades. I'll give you a 4th and a 3rd next year if you give me Trent Williams, and I don't have to pay him $22 million a year to jump off sides 10, 15 times.
But not to mention, here's the biggest thing about the San Fran deal. Their starting all-pro left tackle, Joe Staley, announced his retirement last night. So this was like a no-brainer. So if I was San Fran, I actually could have went to the Redskins for more. Or the Redskins could have asked for more, because the fact of the matter is you need a replacement anyway. But again, a 5th this year and a 3rd next year compared to a first-round pick. And just for the records, if y'all don't know, ladies and gentlemen, Trent Williams has been in the league since 2010. He's been to the Pro Bowl 7 times. He's been All-Pro twice. Laramie Tunsil's been in the league for 4 years, and this is his first year in the Pro Bowl. I'm just saying, and was not an All-Pro. I just don't see I just don't understand this at all, man. Again, the Texans are swinging for the fences, striking out every single time. You don't want to pay your wide receiver, but you're going to pay your left tackle an abundantly too much money.
$3 million less than Drew Brees. That's how much they paid him. $3 million less than Drew Brees. The statistically greatest quarterback in NFL history is only making $3 million more than Laramie freaking Tunsil.
Even more, Laramie Tunsil's making $3 million more than D-Hop. D-Hop was at 17 and wanted to get paid $20 million. That's $2 million less than you're paying me, Laramie Tunsil. An all-pro wide receiver. If you watch the Buffalo game, ladies and gentlemen, I know Texans fans was the real reason why they came back and got into overtime and won the game was because of D-Hop. Other than that, the Texans would have got eliminated in the first round. And you don't want to pay him, but you pay the all-pro tackle. You put not all-pro,
not all
excuse
pro,
me, one
Pro
Bowl
Bowl
tackle.
Pro Bowl.
Pro Bowl tackle.
And that's by default because Eric Fisher was in going to a Super Bowl and
Totally
he was
agree
hurt.
with you.
And he was hurt.
I totally agree.
And Eric Fisher's not that great to begin with, but he's better than Laramie Tunsil. So now I know that Eric Fisher should not remain with the Kansas City Chiefs. If this is the price for offensive tackle in the National Football League, if $22 million is the price for a left tackle that jumps off sides more than anyone else in football, the Chiefs can't afford one. We better keep drafting them.
But the biggest factor of all, going back with the Texans, is y'all overpaid this guy, and y'all gonna be in salary cap hell with y'all newest acquisition in Brandon Cooks and now Laramie Tunsil.
Well,
I just don't understand. Not to mention the X factor also with Trent Williams. He lives in Houston. He lives in Sugar Land, more specifically. The kid's from Longview, Texas, but he has a home in Sugar Land. He would probably would have loved to go from, instead of going all the way to the West Coast, to come back to Houston where he lives at during the off season and play for the Texans. Hell, it's going to be much cheaper to live in Houston than it is going to be in San Fran. But okay, I don't know, man.
Yeah, Tunsil. It's just really aggravating to see Houston spend money on stuff that and not get the value. If I were a Texans fan, I would seriously, I would be picketing at NRG right now, and I'm so serious. I would literally be picketing at NRG that we have to get rid of O'Brien or hire a general manager. Like, you can't let this clown continue to spend frivolously, poorly with players that are. I mean, he's good, but he's not great, and he's definitely not worth $22 million. It's like he knows what the TV deal is going to be and what next year's salary cap is going to be, and he's just spending it all now. That's the only thing that I could rationally see going through his mind, because this dude ain't worth $22 million. He's probably worth 17, and I'm being generous there.
Contract year, so now he got his contract. Will he still live up to the expectations?
Well, in the contract year, he didn't. That's the problem. So, he did not play $22 million football last year.
I agree with you, but they paid him $22 million football, so that's the issue.
Yeah, he didn't play that well. In other news, you got Deshaun Watson and his new deal. Like, at this point, Watson's got to make $40 million a year.
Hands down.
Yeah, this is the effect of what this Tunsil deal did. This is the effect of what Bill O'Brien is doing to the National Football League. You're overpaying people, and you're moving the numbers for everyone else. Like, I can't imagine Trent Williams negotiating for 1 cent less than what Laramie Tunsil was getting. I can't imagine that. I don't see in my mind where that goes. So when you look at Deshaun Watson now, you're like, this dude isn't even in my weight class. I need $40 million because you obviously are just throwing money out there. And now Patrick Mahomes needs $45 million. The shit that Bill O'Brien did, it's really frustrating.
So here's the question: between the two Texas teams, the Cowboys and the Texans. Because you obviously know that now that they're loading weapons for Dak Prescott, he's not going anywhere. He's going to be a Cowboy. So if Dak gets 30, and Bill O'Brien is now he's the new equivalent of Scrooge after he got visited by the ghost, the ghost of Christmas past. I really think you're right. Let me ask you this: do you think Deshaun Watson is worth the $40 million? Do you think that? He's going to get it.
At this moment, I don't value Deshaun Watson that much higher than Dak Prescott. I just don't. I have not seen it to where he has moved to that next step, to that elite level. Like, we've been, all last season, you and me were saying that they are one step away from taking that step. Well, Watson never took it. So, no, I don't think he's worth $40 million, just like I don't believe Dak was worth $30 million. But now Dak is worth $30 million because Laramie Tunsil's got 22. But, I didn't believe Dak was worth $30 million. I definitely don't believe Deshaun is worth 40. Now, can Deshaun be worth 40? Can it be a good investment in the future? Yes. But right now, based on his body of work, no. He's not worth $35 million. I would pay him $32, but I would not go above 33 right now, based on what he's done. Just like I told you about the Dak Prescott mess. Like, I didn't believe he was worth it, and when you saw the numbers come in on the quarterbacks that actually have earned that money, you see that Dak was not worth it.
Now, here's the bigger question. See, Dak has no excuse now because now he has weapons. Now that you got CeeDee Lamb, you overpaid Amari Cooper. I still don't understand how a wide receiver is getting 4 years, $100 million. Amari, AB, Julio, Megatron, Larry in their primes. Yeah, not. I thought he hasn't proven enough. But anyways, with Deshaun having literally no weapons, and I'm sorry, I'm not sold on Brandon Cooks because if you get traded from two of the best quarterbacks at that certain time.
Oh, you're talking about Brady and Breeze. Okay, never mind. Go ahead.
You got traded. Yeah. I'm not. Pat wasn't there when Pat was still in college when Brandon first got drafted. But
I thought you were talking about Jared Goff. I was like, hold on now.
No.
Hold on.
They just restructured this contract, so that tells you he's not worth the money. But no, I'm just saying, at this point, if Deshaun balls out, and let's say the Texans go 10-6, do you think Bill O'Brien's really going to open up that checkbook if he's still the GM, which I really think he does? I don't think Bill gets fired unless the Texans tank.
Bro, I don't know how in West Hell that this owner can rationalize keeping Bill O'Brien as the general manager. I'm sorry. Listen, like, and somebody probably has told him this already. Like, we are not the only one talking about how bad Bill O'Brien has been as general manager. We're not. Like, we're a small podcast, and we speak to our markets, but he's been the laughing stock, at least since the DeAndre Hopkins trade. I would say going back to Laramie Tunsil's trade last year.
I would say Laramie Tunsil.
Yeah.
The Laramie Tunsil deal was,
Yeah, like, I would say even, like, I agree with you there. I would say even back then. But the problem is, how do you tell a guy that we got to take some power back from you after you've given it to him? Like, how do you say we need you to go back to just your role of head coaching? And my further problem is him being just a head coach. He has not been that great of a head coach. So, or that good. I won't say great. That good of a head coach.
He's been adequate enough to win a division. But here's the problem now. The Texans are not now division contenders. They should be more than division contenders. If their premise was just to win their division every year, then fine, he's doing a great job because they're winning the division. Yeah. The problem with Bill O'Brien is I don't think he really knows the GM role because even his former boss and Bill Belichick, Bill was not the GM. Bill is the head coach. He had somebody else be the GM. Now, at the end of the day, he had end-all, be-all say-so, but he had people talking to him. This guy's trying to go ahead and run it. I don't know if you've seen it last night, but he damn near had a meltdown when Detroit didn't pull the trade with him.
Yeah.
And probably because Detroit was smart. Detroit probably supposedly there was a rumor that Detroit was going to trade down and the Texans were trying to trade up to get Swift. But Detroit's smart. They need a running back. And at that time, DeAndre Swift was available. Why the hell are we going to trade with the Texans? What do you have in value that can trade up? You don't have a wide receiver anymore that Detroit needs. No. You don't have anything of value. What are you going to do, trade J.J. Watt? No. You know you ain't going to trade him. And they'd be foolish if Detroit took it. But
come on, bro. Seriously, how do you not trade J.J. Watt when you can, who's on the back end of his career, but you can trade DeAndre Hopkins, who's not on the back end of his career? I don't think
Why are you still paying J.J. that much money? Yeah. That's the question. They've never asked J.J. to restructure his contract, not one time. I mean, even Goff has restructured his contract more recently, but they've never asked J.J., hey, man, you make a lot of money. We need some cap room to go ahead and do some things. Can we move this or move that or pay you in this or something like that, make this a roster bonus or whatever. They've never asked J.J. to restructure his contract, which means they still have all the hype and the love in it, but Yo, you're crazy. Um, I'm sorry. The Texans overall are doing a lot of very, very interesting moves, but I don't see none of them panning out to be anything else but what they are currently.
Well, I think they're going to be stuck in neutral until they do get rid of Bill O'Brien. I really think that they won't take another step until he's no longer their head coach. As you kind of alluded to earlier, the biggest trade so far really in this draft is the movement of Trent Williams. Like, there's been some vertical movement within trades during the second, third round, a couple of times in the first round, but the major move is that Trent Williams is no longer a Redskin, so that is a thing of the past. No more controversy, guys sitting out the entire season, no more unhappy with a medical staff. He's got a new home. This is the home where they made it to the Super Bowl last year. They were a little short, so they fortified the Joe Staley retirement. I think it's a good move for San Francisco. I think it was a great move for San Francisco. They gave up a third and a fifth. Like, seriously, they gave up next to nothing. Like, a third, you might get a good running back, probably won't be a starter. A fifth is a fringe prospect that's going to end up playing special teams. So for a guy that is capable of going back to being an all-pro at left tackle. So,
And side note, that third round pick is actually the Indy pick. So they really didn't lose anything. That was part of the Indy deal that got Buckner over there.
yeah.
So they ain't really lose anything. They lost a fifth. I mean, like you just said, a fifth. I mean, it could, but more likely special teams working hard to get onto the team. I mean, it could be a diamond in the rough, but it's hard to predict that.
And Bill O'Brien should learn from this trade. This is a player that had basically tied Washington's hands, and there was no going back to going to camp, trying to play nice. He wasn't going there, and Washington still managed to get 2 draft picks out of it. Now, they aren't great picks by any stretch of the imagination, but they still managed to get 2 draft picks out of it. And again, let's go back to the D-Hop trade. Like, there was this came out of nowhere. No one saw it coming. There was no hostility. There was no player pushing his way out of town. And you got a fourth and a has-been or a one-hit wonder out of that deal. So if we keep tying this back to O'Brien, it really all this stuff continues to make him look like he just is awful at his job as general manager.
Yeah, I agree. We'll see what this season tells, but you got the injury-plagued receiving core from hell, and we'll see what David Johnson gets you. But as much as I do watch Texans football, just obviously, and most of my friends that are from here are Texans fans, I just am not sold on it. So, us on this podcast, the Steelers fan, the KC fan, and we're watching Texans fans because obviously we're in the market. Yeah, I'm thinking 10-6 goes to be 8-8 this year. I think Deshaun regresses because the fact of the matter is he just doesn't have enough around him.
He lost D-Hop, and D-Hop is what really I'm telling you.
So
I think it's smart.
He don't got a bailout method.
Yeah, I think it's smart that they don't redo his contract until after this season and see what he can do without a great wide receiver.
I think he's pressured though. I think now O'Brien has to, because I think they're really afraid of Deshaun Watson thinking he needs to go elsewhere. Because if they struggle, that's in his head. Like, dude, we had.
Yeah. What'd you think?
Doing it now.
What'd you think about the virtual draft?
It was cool, except for, can I be honest? They needed to probably switch Goodell out after maybe the second round, because yesterday he looked like he was high. Like, he started lounging in the chair. I don't know if you peeped it on day one. He made the announcement that Las Vegas is going to have the 2020 NFL draft. And
2022. Oh yeah. He said 2020, but he was trying
He
to say
said
2022.
2020, but he was trying to say 2022. And everybody's like commenting, like, "Bro, it's already 2020.
Right.
We're not in Vegas." Like Vegas fans were like, "Are you trying to be funny?"
And then he came back and he almost messed up saying the pick. He almost said the 2022 draft. He was all discombobulated.
Yeah, I don't know if he's tired or he ain't had his V8 or whatever, but they needed to do, you know how the NBA does, is out themselves after a while, or they could have had like the coaches do it. One thing I do like about the virtual draft, some of them coaches have some nice ass houses. I'm not gonna lie, like I keep
the guy in Arizona, like how much
Cliff
is he getting
Kingsbury's
paid?
House. So I'm glad you mentioned they had a meme and they showed his house versus Bill Belichick's, and it says 5 wins, and they show Cliff Kingsbury, and it says 6 rings, and they show Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick is he's in his kitchen with his dog, and he's barely there. I'm like, y'all could have probably went somewhere else than Bill Belichick. It'd probably been more interesting to go with the owner. But on a fan's perspective, I like it. I just don't see it. It's football. Hey man, I would take it if they had it in the porta potty right now, just because it's football. So if they made the announcement there, I'm cool.
Just to get our minds off of everything else right now. So here's my thing on the virtual draft. It lost the emotion of having a real draft, and that's the biggest disappointment for me, is that it's just pretty stale. You don't get that emotion, you don't get that passion that these guys had, and I feel for everyone that's having anything in 2020 ever since the Super Bowl, because everything else, at least right now in this moment, it's just watered down. These guys worked their entire 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 in some cases, 22 years to get to this point, to have this stage, to be able to hug the commissioner or dab the commissioner and put on that hat on national TV. And it's been all taken away from them. They're doing it on the couch at home. And it's great that you can be with your family, but you worked for what you've seen in all prior years of the NFL draft, and to have that taken away, it's very disappointing. But, hey, they're going to be millionaires, most of them, or at least the first rounders. So there's the caveat. They're going to be millionaires, so quit bitching.
True. Side note, though, 2 of the families of kids that were drafted, I guess people are petty because the 2 families that were drafted, they won't say the names of the kids. I got to go back and see. But both of them had over 10 people in their household, and one of the families got fined. And I was like, come on, y'all, really? That's just beyond petty. I mean, if all my people is clear, oh, shit, they may have a household full of 10 people. But I was like, really? This is that moment. This kid's getting drafted and the way it's happening.
Well, he can afford the fine now.
Yeah, he can afford it. It's $1,000, like, drop the bucket, I got it.
Yeah, you got it.
It was cool. I do think, and this is the only other thing I had to say on it, I do think some of the moms and quote-unquote girlfriends wanted to be Instagram famous because they keep doing the CD Lamb, I keep calling him Lamb meme, where he took the phone off of his girlfriend. But I'm looking like, this girl got like the shortest of short skirts on. Mom's is into like a full-fledged gown. I'm like, all right, they haven't made mom famous, but I can't knock it because, again, like you said, they're not going to have this moment. It's not like they can have it once the world opens up and starts over again, that the 2020 draft and the 2021 draft are going to have a party. It's not going to happen. So, it is what it is.
Yeah, it definitely is. Like I said, first off, whatever the law enforcement agency that did that is, they really.
That's petty.
It's another word for it, but I'm not going to use it. It's just, yeah. Congratulations to the kids being drafted. Like I said, I'm sorry that your draft is watered down, but once this is all over, you get to live your dream. And now you have a new goal. Your next goal, I guess, is to try to win a Super Bowl. Individual goals is Pro Bowl and All Pro. So now you got new goals. And listen, no one's going to steal nothing is going to steal away the platform if you get to a Super Bowl. Nothing's going to steal the platform if you go to your first Pro Bowl. So don't let the fact that you didn't get to walk across the stage get your dabber down. Just enjoy it. Enjoy the moment.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be rich, a lot of you. Richer than, and a lot of you are going to be a lot richer than what you started off being. Even these guys in the later rounds, you're going to make some money to play football. I mean, and you get the chance to try to make it to a second contract. So don't get your dabber down. Keep your head up. We're going to get through this. You won't ever get this moment back. So try to make the most of it. And if you get fined because you're celebrating too excessively with your family, throw the damn sheriff $1,000 and tell him to go to hell.
Or buy him some tickets. Say, hey,
nah, don't give him no tickets. The hell with him. He shouldn't have came to your house. You give him $1,000 and tell him to get on with his sorry, miserable life. Moving on to rounds 1 through 3. Justin, what do you have as the biggest steal so far in the draft?
So this one was kind of hard after the second round or after the third round, but two of the biggest, I have two, so I have a tie. And Reg, you'll love this. One of them went to your team. I thought Clyde Edwards-Helaire going to the Chiefs was a perfect fit because he's not a big back, but my man got some speed and he can catch. And he was one of the most vital parts outside of Joe Burrow and the wideout core for LSU. I thought that was a steal because y'all didn't have to trade up. Y'all didn't have to do anything. He kind of just fell in your laps. And the biggest factor is everybody had DeAndre Swift above him. But DeAndre Swift is injury prone. This kid has no injuries. So I actually would have said he was the biggest sleeper, not sleeper. He was the one of the best value picks I've seen in the draft. I'm still going to go with, and I hate to say this, but Derrick Brown, because I was on the Derrick Brown bandwagon when we did the mock draft. Him going to Carolina, I loved it. I thought he was a perfect fit. If they're trying to rebuild the team, one of the positions you can play is a multifaceted lineman. My man can play DN. He can play tackle. He's 6'5", 300 pounds, but he got a burner on him. I thought those two were probably the best picks so far that I've seen.
I like the running back too in Kansas City, of course, because he's a perfect fit, and Patrick Mahomes wanted the guy. So anytime you have a quarterback tell your GM Clyde, and then they all agree, that's where they said they were going anyway. I love that pick. I think another, and this is the 33rd pick in the draft, another steal for me is T. Higgins going to Clemson. I don't watch a lot of college football, but I've been hearing T. Higgins' name all year and all last year too.
Yeah.
For him to go there, they have the top drafted quarterback. They also fortify their line, and they got T. Higgins to pair alongside A.J. Green. Listen, they may not be the Bungles. They may not be the Bungles much longer.
So can I ask this? Can they free A.J. Green now? Like, now y'all got Todd's boy, who was actually a good receiver in A.J.'s absence, with an inconsistent quarterback. But, I mean, I'm a homer. Todd's boy went to Pitt, so I know I've seen the kid since day one. And now you got T. Higgins. And you got Burrow. It's like maybe it's time to get rid of the whole regime. Even them talking about Andy Dalton's willing to ride the bench. I think it's like, yo, guys, it's time to move on with everything that was under Marvin Lewis. Let this kid and the new coach and Burrow and everybody else, let's start a new regime with Cincy. Now, it's Cincinnati, so I don't really give a damn. I think they're still going to suck. But they scary. T. Higgins, I did not like as a pick going to Cincinnati. I was actually pissed, but I liked the pick. I just didn't like him going to Cincy because I was like, man, we want to see this kid a lot. Mm-hmm. And this kid got a motor.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And if we move on to the biggest reach so far in the draft, I'm going to stick with Kansas City because this one is boom or bust completely. Willie Gay Jr., linebacker out of Mississippi State. The guy played a total of, 6 games in college? It may be 8.
Yeah.
No, it was 6. It was 6. He was suspended for 8. He played a total
Right.
of 6 college football games. And you're drafting him in the second round on the Super Bowl winning team, and you really expect him to start. Like this, he was not drafted to ride the bench. He was drafted to start. This was a huge need for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I really think they probably should have went cornerback first, but I will trust in the brass. And this one is literally, it's either going to be a home run or it's going to be a bunt. There is no in between with this kid.
I didn't like the pick. We were going back and forth via text. I didn't like the pick just because, like you said, the lack of time. He kind of they have him as a loose cannon. Like I actually did some more homework just to see. So he's had multiple suspensions going back to his high school days. So you may have to corral him, but the only thing is you're with a leadership team. You're with a team with a bunch of leaders, and I see what they did with Frank Clark. Frank Clark, if anybody remembers, before he got drafted to Seattle, had 2 domestic violence charges against him.
Tyreek
That's
Hill.
why he had to leave Michigan. So, I mean, he's been basically a model citizen since he's been in the league. So, if anybody can corral him, Kansas City can with Andy Reid and those guys at management. But I wasn't a thrilled to pick. Actually, the guy that went next after y'all, Logan Wilson from Wyoming, I thought he would have been a better fit. More college time, heavy work motor. His knock against him that he's a little big for the inside linebacker position, but I think he would have probably been a better fit for y'all.
I mean, I'm all aboard with Willie Gay Jr. Because of his potential. Like, if he pans out, he's better than Derek Johnson. A lot of people have been trying to compare him to Derek Johnson. He's better if he pans out. If he doesn't, then like we're looking at Anthony Hitchens 2.0 or worse. So
Yeah, or worse, yeah.
So it's really this one's going to be either a home run or it's a bunt. Like I said, there's no in between here. I agree with you on the part that he's in the right locker room. Like, you got Tyrann Mathieu, you got Andy Reid, you got Patrick Mahomes. Now, I don't want him hanging out with Travis Kelce too much because he's a little bit out there too, or even Tyreek Hill. Like, listen, the Chiefs are suddenly like the bad boys of football because some of these guys, like now we got Gay, we got Tyreek Hill, we got Frank Clark.
Kelsey's just a hothead on the field, but he doesn't have any off the field stuff. Like, he's just emotional. So I would give him a pass because he's just, you know what I mean, just over emotional on the field. But, you know what I mean, you don't never hear nothing from the dude off there. For the exception of him doing dating shows. But, I mean, I'll give him a pass on that one.
Oh, yeah. Travis is Travis. It's just, like I said, with the Chiefs, this is going to be a pretty good locker room for Willie Gay to go into. He's got a great head coach who allows you to be yourself but corrals you in when he needs to. I think the only failure from our locker room was probably Marcus Peters since Andy Reid has been there. And
he wasn't that bad.
I don't think Peters, and I don't call him a failure. I think this was a political move moving him on from Kansas City. I really think that was all politics. Even he didn't do anything that I considered terrible. A lot of people will point to one game where he went to the locker room without being thrown out. Well, he thought he was thrown out of the game. Like, who gives a shit? Like, he overreacted. He thought he got ejected. So he went to the locker room. But after that game, he got into it with Bob Sutton, or no, it wasn't Bob Sutton. It was a special teams coach, Dave Taub. He got into it with Dave Taub on the bus after that game, which probably sent him packing from the organization. But I really still think that was more about politics than anything else. And as long as this kid doesn't do anything like kneel for the national anthem, he'll be okay.
Yeah. For my reach, I'm sorry, we talked about this. I really think the Green Bay Packers picking up Jordan. Actually, I'm going to say the Green Bay Packers overall because they've been
first
picking
and
up
second
pieces.
round.
Yeah, and
but that's what I was going with
Dillon
biggest
pick,
surprise, not reach. I was going surprise with that one.
I didn't like it because here's the thing. Aaron Rodgers is still your current quarterback. Yeah, they're basically Aaron Rodgers is getting Brett Favre. But here's the thing. When that draft in 2005 happened, Aaron Rodgers and Alex Smith were supposed to be basically neck and neck. And then Aaron dropped because he had attitude issues, and a lot of teams didn't want to deal with attitude issues. So that's why he fell to Green Bay. But other than that, if he had a positive attitude, so on and so forth, because I actually read his report coming out of college, he probably would have been top 10 if it wasn't for, and now, nowadays they don't give a damn about your attitude. We'll fix it. Because of probably people like Aaron Rodgers, Cam Newton, where it's like, look, you can fix the attitude. Shit, we don't give a damn about that because he can win. But you get Jordan Love in the first round. But here's the thing. Green Bay's been drafting quarterbacks. They've had 4 quarterbacks drafted or picked up in the last 3 years. Brett Huntley from UCLA, that didn't work out. He's in Arizona. Deshaun Kaiser, who was originally in Cleveland, they traded to get him. He's currently the backup in Green Bay. Matt Williams, which was the starting quarterback over Mitchell Trubisky until he graduated from North Carolina, he was in Green Bay. He went to the XFL. He's still on the roster now. Now you pick up Jordan Love. I just didn't see the passion and the love with Jordan Love where all these scouts had him. His last year at Utah State, he had 19 touchdowns and 17 interceptions. I just didn't see it, and Green Bay still needs weapons. Devontae Adams can't stay healthy. You don't have another clear-cut receiver. This is a heavy receiver draft. And then the next round, Aaron Jones balled out for Green Bay, which really kept them in games, even got them to the playoffs. But now you're basically getting a guy who's the complete opposite of Aaron Jones because A.J. Dillon is like Corey Dillon. He's a downfield runner. All they do is hit. He's not a catcher. He's not going to catch in the backfield. He has a total of 300 yards for 4 years in college. He's 6', 275. He's more of like for us for the Steelers. He's a ground and pound type dude. But Green Bay's offense is a spread offense, so they throw the ball a lot. I just didn't understand what Green Bay's thinking unless they're to the point now you're changing the whole dynamic of this team, and the Aaron Rodgers era is about to be over.
Yeah, I mean, and we did talk about this on Skype. I think we talked about it in the Messenger too. As far as the Aaron Rodgers, and first off, let's just call Green Bay what it is. They are great at drafting quarterbacks, so I'm going to trust them, especially first-round quarterbacks. And they have a certain DNA type that they love, big arm, probably needs to be corralled as far as the interceptions come along, and that's Jordan Love. Jordan Love has been basically called a poor man's Patrick Mahomes. I think he will be better in the NFL because he'd be surrounded by better talent than he was in college. I think the talent level around him his last year in college was probably why he threw as many interceptions as touchdowns. But I do see them fixing that problem in Green Bay. I think the biggest issue with that is Aaron Rodgers, but he seems to have talked to the kid already, and it seems like it's going to work out. It'll be better than the way Favre handled him. I do believe that. I think Aaron Rodgers learned from that experience with Brett Favre not to be that way, and he knows he's getting older. He knows he's been injured more lately as he's gotten older, and he kind of knows this is Green Bay's pattern when it comes to quarterback. 35, 36,
True.
Let's draft the replacement and get them groomed.
The one thing is with Green Bay, what you said, and I agree with you with everything, but Ted Thompson was the GM for those regimes. Ted Thompson ain't there no more. And I just don't see – I really think they could have got Jordan Love in the second round. Them to trade up to get him when –
Yeah, that was a bad move. Nobody else was taking a quarterback.
Nobody else was taking a quarterback after – because Green Bay was – it could have fell to Green Bay at that point because it was Green Bay – the Chiefs, the Ravens. I'm like, no one there was going to pick. They traded up to get him.
Yeah, once the Saints drafted and didn't take Jordan Love, you could have got him in the second round.
The Chargers had a pick. I'm like, okay, well, they just drafted a quarterback. They're not going to have 2 first-round draft picks as quarterback.
I think that quarterback's going to end up being a reach, too, but you can keep going.
We're going to discuss that one, too. I like that. Me and you got the same thought process. But I just thought it was a reach, and they gave up a second rounder for it too, and I'm just like, this may be a lot for.
But if he turns into Aaron Rodgers in 5 years, we don't care that they traded up to get him. And that's true. If he turns into Aaron Rodgers, we don't care. That's why I don't consider him the biggest reach. This is their organizational pattern, and with that being their case, that being how they operate, I'm not going to blast them on it. I'm going to stick with my pick for biggest surprise and biggest reach. Let's move on, though. Let's move on to which one of these players make a general manager a Hall of Famer. That's a good one right there.
So, I'll be honest with you. I was, and sorry, there's an echo. I'm rocking back and forth. I took a deep breath. I was like, all right, what was the best fit? I like Cincinnati's moves. I hate to say it because I'm in the same goddamn division with Cincy, but Cincy is playing. You get a quarterback, cool. You already have a running back in Joe Mixon, which they got to pay, and now you got a wide receiver in T. Higgins, and you get an offensive lineman later down in the draft. So now you're building that offense up. Now, mind you, they still need help from defense, but I just like what they were doing. I'm like, yo, I can't even knock Cincy for a team that didn't have anything, and they I don't think they won 3 games last season. They're making all the right moves. I almost gave it to Miami until they drafted the cornerback at the end of the first round that was slated to be a third rounder, and he went first. I was like, okay, now y'all fucked up. But right now I'm saying Cincinnati. So otherwise.
Yeah, I like Miami's draft. They kind of did everything you would have asked them to do. I knew they were going to take Tua where they took him at. I don't know what this other Herbert person came from in the last hours that people decided to make him that pick. But not only did they get Tua, let me pull up their draft to further emphasize this. They got Tua protection. They got Tua weapons. The and the Patriots are no longer the Patriots any longer. So I think the Dolphins went from worst to possibly first in their division through this draft if their coaching is sufficient. I just really believe what they've done, and if Tua is healthy, they went and they got Tua.
Factor.
That's a huge factor. That's a huge factor. But they got Tua. Then they went and got in protection by drafting Jackson out of USC. Then they went back to defense because that's what their coach does. He does defense. They drafted a cornerback out of Auburn who's rated as an A-plus player. They went back to the offensive line to fortify more protection for their quarterback. Listen, Tua should be covered. Now, I'm sorry, I apologize. They did not get the weapons that they should have gotten, but they got him an offensive line. They got a strong defense, only getting stronger. If they can find receivers worth a damn, this is going to be a dangerous team. And that we at sometimes thought they would be 0-16 at some points last year, but they turned it on once Fitzpatrick started. But this is a team to be reckoned with in a division that's not that great, at least on paper right now. And if they can find receiver help, they're going to be dangerous.
The one factor that I just seen and lost the page was Miami looking at trying to trade to get Odell Beckham. So it's actually kind of funny. Landry was in Miami, went to Cleveland. Now Odell's in Cleveland trying to get to Miami. If they can get Odell and put him with Tua for the future, I mean, obviously we know Fitz is going to start until Tua is 100% healthy because, like it or not, the YouTube footage is not real contact. But I see it. I see Miami maybe about 3-4 years actually being a contender in their division.
I see 2. I say give them one more year to redshirt, and next year they put some weapons around Tua. Only thing that I don't like about their draft is the cornerback slot. I think they could have got him at 39 and slipped T. Higgins here at 30, and then it would be let's roll. But because they did not do that, They're a year away. But I think if they get him weapons, and he's going to sit the first 6 games. Let's not. I think they should put him on the PUP list, personally. I think he should be on the physically unable to perform list for the first 6 games, and then evaluate him from there. You're going to bring him back. And Fitzpatrick is a decent quarterback to study under. Decent. I won't say he's ideal, but he's a decent quarterback to study under. I just like their first 4 picks. Their 5th pick I'm not, great on, or their 6th pick. But they had so many picks, and what they've done is protect the quarterback, fortify their defense, draft a quarterback, and a division where it's really all defense now.
And the one factor, I'm looking at their free agents they picked up. So they got Byron Jones at cornerback. So they're getting their – so they got the Byron Jones from Dallas. They got a deep end, and then they got Jordan Howard from Philly. So they have – players. They did not, and Shaq Lawson, who was one of their Buffalo's main pass rushers. So Miami's coming to be. Actually, I may have to agree with you. 2 years, if they can get a receiver, they got to give them a weapon, because their best receiver right now is still Danny Amendola. I mean, come on, man. And Danny's good in New England, but anywhere else, yeah, right.
But I really respect them respecting their coach's identity and not just going all offense. I'm sure the coach was like, I need to get a corner. I need something defense, because you offense. Okay, give me a defensive player here, and then you can go back to offense. Yeah. I like what they're doing. I like what they're building. Belichick better watch out, especially without a quarterback. And that's I think the biggest surprise to me is that they didn't make a move for quarterback at all. I really believe it's either Winston or Newton in New England now, because they didn't make a play at all for quarterback. All righty.
Yeah, and side note, just seen the announcement. So remember, we were talking about Buffalo. Jake Fromm from Georgia just got picked up at quarterback. So I'm pretty sure with him getting picked up, and Jake Fromm was a hell of a quarterback. You can even watch his show on Netflix, QB1, that was showing his high school
they
career.
took Jake Fromm. That's
interesting. They took Jake Fromm, so that makes me feel that Josh Allen is now on the
Well, this is the 5th round, so you can't say that. 5th or 6th round. You can't. He's not on the hot seat yet, but I'm going to tell you one thing. You don't take a guy that you think is this good and not put some pressure on Josh Allen, but but that's kind of what I was going to go to anyway, and I'm glad you beat me there. 3 quarterbacks that were drafted a few years ago have been put on the clock. Allen, Darnold, and Mayfield. All 3 of these guys have been put on the clock. There are no more excuses for these guys anymore. The offensive lines have been fortified through the draft. Weapons have been fortified through the draft and other means. These guys are on the clock. They're in their 4th year, all of them, I believe. And they're going to play through their 4th year, and they're going to have to earn that 5th year option. Every last one of them. And there's 2 of them on this list that I am ready to write off already, and that's Darnold and Allen, but we will see. But the clock has started, and I think this is their last year to prove that they can take steps forward. It's too many quarterbacks that were drafted with them or after them that have played well enough to take their teams to places they have not been before, that you can't keep waiting for these kids to get better.
Yeah. Oh, and also, side note, Matt Breida, the original starting running back for the Niners before Raheem Mostert went off, he just got traded to the Dolphins.
So weapons.
So now they got running back.
Weapons.
So now, yeah. Yep.
Weapons for Tua. Fitzpatrick is going to love the offensive line, and he's going to love Breida, but he also knows he's babysitting that job. So the Dolphins, first off, that GM is a brother. So
the head coach is a brother too.
If he can turn this organization around, they have not won since Marino retired, really. I think they made 1 playoff game since Marino retired.
Correct. Last time they had a Pro Bowl quarterback was Marino in 95.
95.
High school.
I was a freshman.
Correct.
Wait, that was the end of 95, so I wasn't a freshman yet. Because if he was in the
95,
Pro Bowl,
96.
then I was a
yeah.
freshman. 95, 96, I was a freshman. I'm telling my age. What GM is most likely to be fired? We both agree on this one. Can we skip it, or do we have to tell everybody what we've been telling them all day anyway?
No, it's a tie. John Gruden is making no sense.
Oh, you agree with me now?
Draft.
You didn't like that yesterday.
John Gruden, bro, you draft 3 receivers. Okay, you need offensive line help. Shout out to my man Chris. You're gonna listen. He literally turned off his TV. Fell out. Starting with the first round of the draft, out of the top 5 receivers, Henry Ruggs III was the 5th best receiver coming out in the draft. He went first. He lost to CeeDee Lang. You okay there, Red? You good? Okay. But CeeDee Lamb didn't pick him. Didn't pick Ruggs' counterpart, all-world Jerry Jeudy. He falls. Denzel Mims, 6'2", 4'4", former track guy. He falls. You pick Henry Ruggs III, and don't get me wrong, he was a beast to Alabama, but he wasn't that guy if it wasn't for the fact is you had to make sure to cover Jerry Jeudy. And Jeudy.
Can I get in right there real fast?
Go ahead.
Not only was he really good at Alabama, but he had a precise quarterback throwing to him in Tua. He didn't have a Derek Carr who's not precise. He had Tua throwing to him, and he was as accurate a passer in college football that I've probably ever seen. You don't have that in Derek Carr, and I don't know that Ruggs' speed is going to translate to anything other than them saying that we need to move on from Derek Carr. But if they need to move on from Carr after year 3, at some point, you've got to say Gruden just hadn't gotten it done.
Not to mention, okay, so after that, the Raiders pick up 2 more receivers. So one is the guy, Lynn Bowden, who actually was the starting quarterback at University of Kentucky. They compare him to Randall Cobb because they went to the same high school. He's kick returner / wide receiver. He just converted after the bowl game because, again, he was a quarterback at Kentucky. And then the kid actually liked the South Carolina kid that went next. That was an okay pick. Howard, he wasn't bad. He's 6'3", 210. I like him. Okay, cool. But why get all these wide receivers? You need to protect. If you're not going quarterback, so obviously I'm thinking they're not going that route now. You need to protect Derek Carr. You need to protect Josh Jacobs, your running back. You need secondary help, but you get every wide receiver in the book. I know you traded off Amari Cooper. The Antonio Brown experiment didn't work, but y'all did have Terrell Williams there. Y'all had at least one receiver. To go get 3 rookies, which means they're pretty much going to all play around the same time, is kind of stretching it. I don't know what the hell John Gruden was thinking. I was like, okay, maybe he'll trade one. So far, he hasn't traded anybody, but 3 wide receivers is a bit much for anything in a draft, especially 2 of them weren't projected to go any higher than 5.
So back to the question is who's most likely to get fired. We both agree on both of these guys now. I think someone else has convinced you on the John Gruden because you weren't sniffing my coffee yesterday because you were talking about the money involved. I don't know. I think he probably makes it to year 5. And if he has not made it to the playoffs in year 5, he's done. But I don't know that he makes it through year 4. We'll just have to see. There's a consensus, and we won't say he will get fired, or he's likely to get fired. But the guy that should be fired the most, obviously, is Bill O'Brien. Before we move on, I do want to backtrack real quick. I like the Chargers draft too. Only part about the Chargers draft that I'm skeptical about is the quarterback because he's an Oregon guy. But the middle linebacker they got, exceptional. Yeah. Then they come back with a running back to balance. What is his name? Eckerman. What is his name?
Eckler.
Eckler.
Yeah.
They got balance for that, so I like what the Chargers are doing. That scares me. The AFC West is just going to be a track meet. Let's just agree on that. And there's only one
Denver
team that
has
can
like
play.
Well, you've seen Denver, so now they've drafted 4 tight ends in 3 drafts. So I mean,
They're still chasing the ghost of Shannon Sharp.
Yeah, but I mean, you can only go to the well so many times. Side note: so the Texans just drafted a wide receiver, Isaiah Coulter from Rhode Island. So I've gone on while we were talking 3 different mock draft boards. No one had this kid higher than 6, and he went in the 5th round. Another Bob move.
Well, I mean, that's a good move for Bob then. He only overspent by 1 round. Listen, you got to take it with a grain of salt with that dude. Like, that's good for him. He's getting closer.
Yeah.
He's getting closer. I mean,
closer to keeping his job or closer to keeping the fans?
No. Neither one of those things. Just closer to what everyone else is doing is all. Getting closer. So yeah, I would say John Elway deserves to be on this list, but he's not getting fired. Like, that's just what it is. But
it really depends on Drew Lock. Because John Elway's success rate with quarterbacks right now is horrible. I mean, his only success he had was convincing Peyton Manning to come. But right now, other than that, his succession rate with QBs is like dumpster juice.
So I think he should be on the hot seat, but he's not going to be. Like, the two of the 3 guys that we've named should be on the hot seat, but they're not going to be. If you put a gun to my head right now and ask me the GM most likely to be fired in the next year, I would say probably the Jets. I'd probably say the Jets.
But the thing is the Jets, the GM and the coach are beefing, so that's always an issue. So yeah, I'm agreeing with you with the Jets, because even the Le'Veon deal, they way overpaid him. You paid him his value, but then you don't bolster the line which he needs, so it's like it's irrelevant. And no one was sold on Sam Darnold. I had him going 2nd round in a mock draft. I was on with friends, and he went top 10. And I'll say this: USC quarterbacks are not known to do anything in the NFL. I'm just saying. Carson was probably your best bet in the last 40 years.
Yeah. So we'll see. We have a list of 3 candidates right now. We don't see Bill O'Brien being fired, but he definitely should be on top of this list. I think he might be blackmailing Cal McNair. I don't know. Something's got to justify this bullshit that he's doing. I'm sorry. Let's move into the draft itself. Let's do some grades. We got about 30 minutes to go through grades, so we won't get a lot of chance to go through analysis. But let's go through grades. Cincinnati Bengals.
So far, they're doing all the right pieces. I don't think they stretched for anybody. I mean, we obviously knew Burrow was going to Cincy. That was a no-brainer. So I'm pretty much saying so far they're an A. I didn't see any stretches with it.
Agreed. And I got the Ravens. A team that had a great draft is the Baltimore Ravens.
I hate to say it.
You hate to say it. Who's the Chiefs' biggest threat in the AFC? I know they're in your division, but Jesus. The Ravens have had a great draft so far.
Golly. For Dobbins to fall to them, now I knew why the Steelers didn't pick up Dobbins, but for him to fall right to Baltimore, basically you have Mark Ingram, whenever his days are over, his replacement, or if he gets hurt.
They can trade him.
Yes.
They can trade him,
wow.
and I see them trading him.
Because when I look at Dobbins, he looks like Ray Rice.
Without the background.
Without the background. I'm talking about Ray Rice before all that happened.
The player.
Right. But ability-wise, I was like, wow, Baltimore's just doing it again. Jesus. So, yeah, Baltimore may be up there probably as one of the best drafts so far.
Yeah, I have them. I'm gonna say A- so far, just because I don't want to give them an A.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Didn't they get Patrick Queen too?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Linebacker
I'm sorry. They get an A.
LSU.
They get an A.
Yeah, and Patrick Queen fell to them because Patrick Queen was supposed to go top 10.
Yeah, I'm taking my minus back and I'm just giving them an A.
Cleveland, I give them a B. They haven't done anything until they can figure out this situation with Odell and moving him along or moving him forward or getting him on the right path. They already were set in most of their positions. Them getting an offensive lineman actually was a great move because they need to protect.
It puts Baker on the clock.
Yeah, it puts Baker on the clock. You're now protecting the combo of Stubb and Hunt. So they're doing what they're doing. They're making sure Baker's protected. So if Baker struggles, then we know it's Baker, and Baker will. What's Cleveland? Baker won't leave. I mean, he'll be there forever. He could struggle, but he'll still be there because it's Cleveland.
I don't think so. I think he's on the clock. I think when you sign, like with that receiving core, and everyone's excuse for Baker was he needs to have time to throw. Well, you go out and you select Jarek Wills from Alabama as your offensive tackle at 10 overall. So you have protected Baker Mayfield. You've now got to evaluate Baker Mayfield as a quarterback who has all the weapons in the world and now has the protection.
Can't go 7-9.
No, you have to win 10 games.
Yes, there's no 7-9 in there.
You have to win 10 games if you're Cleveland. I'm going to give them a B+. Like I said, he's on the clock, and then they went defense, and they went LSU safety Grant Delpit. They went Jordan Elliott from Mizzou, and then they went Jacob Phillips from LSU. Like A-, B- players. I'm going to give them a B+. I think they win more games than the Steelers this year.
I think we tie. I think both teams will be 9-7. I'm not sold on the coach. If we go off of paper, yes, they should. But if we go off of paper, they should be a 12-14.
Yes.
I'm just being honest. But it's Cleveland.
Well, we get to see what Baker Mayfield is in the NFL now.
Right, and that's the biggest thing. This is his boom or bust year.
That's what I tell you. He's got to be on the clock. You have the opportunity to give Baker Mayfield. He has the weapons. Now he should have the time. He's got the running backs. Like, he's got to win at least 10.
Yeah, I'm about to say, yeah.
He's got to win at least 10. The Steelers. You want me to go first so you can go a little further in detail on this one?
Go for it.
I give him a C. You got the rest.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm going to give them, I hate to say it, but I'm almost agree with them. Giving them a B- not because of the first two picks, because Chase Claypool, let's be realistic. Everybody was like, well, we didn't get a running back. When Jonathan Taylor got snagged, when they traded all the way up, when Indy traded all the way up and got Taylor, that completely cleared our board because we needed a power back. We got Connor. We have a small back in Benny Snell, so that's why it's like there's no point in getting Dobbs because that's the same guy technically. We needed a power back, and when Taylor was gone, and then when A.J. Dillon was gone, that was it. Chase Claypool is a beast.
I see a lot of Randy in him.
238. Huh?
I see a lot of Randy in him.
Yes. The only problem they had with Chase Claypool is he was not good in double coverage, which it's double coverage. I'm sorry. That means someone needs to be open. Plus, his kid is probably our insurance policy in case Juju gets hurt again. Remember, Juju, Connor, Watt, all on contract years. We're going to pay Watt. That's an automatic. 9 out of 10, we're going to pay Juju. Connor, probably not. The second pick for Highsmith.
Real quick. Speaking of paying the Watts, them brothers are going to get together when their career's over. They're going to buy a damn team.
I know. because we already got Derek.
Yeah, go ahead.
So here's the other thing. Because of free agency, that's why I wasn't tripping about running back, because we're going back to an I formation on a lot of plays. We're not going to have Ben air it out as much. The next pick was Highsmith, and my buddy Matt, who listens, he was like, well, we should have went and got another running back. We just paid Bud Dupree. He just franchised Bud Dupree $14 million, outside linebacker / DN. We're not going to pay both Bud and TJ Watt big money. So pretty much we found Bud's replacement when this year is over with. Bud's probably going to get if he balls out, he'll probably get a huge overpaid contract. We're not going to pay him that much because we got to pay TJ. We'll probably have to pay Juju. It's not enough money in the world. We got to choose. The pick I like is a pick that came in this round. In the 4th round, the kid out of Louisiana, the offensive guard. I mean, I know we're going depth, and he'll be behind Steven Wisniewski, but he was a stretch because everybody pegged him as a 6th round pick, and he went 4th. I know Steelers find diamonds in the rough, but typically our diamonds in the rough are skill players and linebackers. So I thought this was a stretch. I wasn't sold on. You got to really sell me on this one, but he could ball up. But I thought he was a stretch on this one. I mean, we need more tackle than anything because we lost Ramon Foster, but we'll see. So that's why I said B-, because Claypool's going to be a stud, I think, because also on the same note, the kid first 2 years at Notre Dame, he was tight end, didn't move to wide receiver his last year. I like the Eric Ebron signing, but there's a reason why it's a 1-and-1 deal, which basically means we can cut him next year after next season. Is if we get Eric Ebron that played the last year in Colts land and all his career in Detroit versus the 2 first years, we can just get rid of him, and this kid's already on debt.
All right. So you're saying B- for the Steelers draft pick?
Yeah, so far.
So what does that say about your GM?
He's picking value, but again, everybody wanted us to trade up to go get Taylor, and we didn't got enough to trade. So he's picking depth. So this we're saying with our GM is you're on the clock too, buddy. I know they just signed Kevin Colbert to an extension, but his extension is the same. Him, Ben, and Tomlin's contracts are all up at the same time. So it's not Tomlin's fault necessarily. He can sign off on it, but Colbert, these guys better pan out this year because you're going to have some problems come next year and the year before, a year after that.
Next up will be the Raiders. What grade do you give the Raiders?
I'm sorry, F.
That's harsh.
If you're going for wide receivers, I get the premise of going for wide receivers. Actually, I'll take it back. I'll give him a D-. I get the point of going for wide receivers, but you're picking the wrong wide receivers. You're picking a bunch of short speed guys versus you got one big guy out of the 3, but you don't pick the top guy. So you get Ruggs. We just talked about this. You get Ruggs, and he was ranked number 4 out of the top 5 receivers in this draft. But you were the first team to pick a wide receiver. You get Judy. You don't get Lamb. Then the 2 receivers you get, then you go back in the 2nd and 3rd round to get more receivers. I just don't understand why you're doing this. You need other help in your to go against the Patrick Mahomes in this division. Y'all need help on the pass rush, and y'all need, more importantly, y'all need help in the secondary. And y'all didn't address that. Y'all just keep just addressing the receivers. So basically, it's telling me John Gruden wants to get into a shootout.
Well, yeah, I mean that's how they feel like they're gonna compete with the Chiefs is a shootout. I'm not as bad I'm not as down as you on this. I give him a C. Here's the thing about picking a Jerry Jeudy or Lamb. No one picked them the next 4 or 5 spots after them either. And my biggest need for the 49ers was receiver, and they didn't think that Jeudy was worth 14. Like the next team they picked was the Broncos, who I guess had a need, but not in my opinion.
The Broncos needed a receiver.
Who
do they have?
They like Sutton. They like Sutton.
That's all they had.
I
That's
mean,
all
but
they
they
had was
picked a
Sutton.
lot of
They lost
receivers.
Sanders.
They picked some receivers in this draft. We'll get to them in just a moment. But they picked a couple receivers. I'm just saying that the Bucs didn't pick them up. Well, the Bucs didn't need them. San Francisco did need them, and they picked up Judy. But I mean, there's other teams that passed this kid too, and that probably could have used the number one receiver, like the Jets, the Jaguars.
We can't even go there with the Jets.
The Jaguars.
Jags, yeah, I was kind of surprised.
The Panthers.
But but the Panthers don't draft receivers either.
I'm just saying,
that's the other issue.
It's a lot of teams that passed all these receivers up, and John Gruden is a speed guy. It's what he's always been. If that's what he likes, and his problem is going to be quarterback, and I believe that to the depths of my soul. His problem is going to be the quarterback. He's got to find him a quarterback, and there's a couple out there that can throw the deep ball. So I give him a C. I still think he's getting closer to that hot seat than a lot of people may know. But I think this is a C draft, and I don't think that they did a lot to compete this year unless they go pick up a quarterback.
Or do you think Gruden right now is probably trying to tank for Trevor Lawrence?
Well, he's putting a lot of weapons around him if he's tanking, because I like it. Listen, Tyreek Hill works in the NFL, and if this guy is Tyreek Hill also, then you've seen it work. It works in Kansas City. You just need the quarterback, and I think he's smart enough to know that he doesn't have the quarterback. There's a couple of them available right now that I really, really was high on. So watch the Raiders. I don't think this draft is the end of their day. Next up is the Denver Broncos. We talked a little bit about their draft earlier. The Broncos did pick some receivers, and they got another tight end in this draft. They didn't pick just Jerry Jeudy, who you got as the best wide receiver in this draft, but they picked KJ Hamler out of Penn State also.
He is more all-world. Like, AJ Hamler will probably be more I'm trying to think of what AJ Hamler's more Randall Cobbish. So you can put him in the backfield, you can put him in the slot. You can move him in multiple positions. Being from Pittsburgh, and a lot of my friends played and went to Penn State. I pay attention to Penn State. AJ Hamler is phenomenal, but it also works well for their special teams. I would say Hamler is more of a Tyreek Hill, where he's a do-it-all player. So I do like him. I think he went high, but I guess right now John Elway, I'm right, trying to get as much weapons for Drew Lock as possible, because I'm pretty sure he's set on Drew Lock as their future right now.
Well, I don't think he's got another quarterback left to draft. I think they have to start asking questions if he has to get rid of another quarterback.
Yeah, that's very true.
I like Jeudy. I like Hamler. I like the speed at tight end from Missouri, who played with this quarterback 2 years ago. I give them a B+. And the AFC West, I said earlier, I'll say it again, is just it's not football anymore. It's a track meet. Who can score the most, the fastest, and get a couple stops in between. It's going to be very interesting. The AFC West has, I think, gotten stronger in this draft and scarier and closer than what everybody, like the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, but that second half of the season when we went on that run, those games were a lot closer than anybody wants to talk about. So, and we had a lot of comebacks, and if you got speed like this, you're opposing, coming back ain't going to be that easy.
The only knock against Denver is they need an offensive line help, and they didn't address it. Because their last couple of offensive linemen, specifically the first-round guy, I forgot his name, is not panning out. So they still need someone to block for now they need someone to block for Locke, Gordon, and Lindsey, because they're building up their offense. I like, if you look on the whole spectrum, their offense is going to be solid. I won't say Pro Bowl caliber solid. They're solid. But you still got to protect the quarterback and protect that line. They haven't addressed that yet. We'll see.
Yep, definitely with you. Protection is key. And they did not address that line outside of the center they drafted out of LSU, Lloyd Cushenberry. I think he's a national championship center. I think they feel like they can develop him. And he can become the anchor of an offensive line that has had some struggles and will continue to until they get some tackles. I'm not sold on the quarterback, and I'm just going to be completely honest. I'm a huge Mizzou fan, but I have never seen one be successful in the National Football League. Until I do, I just have no faith that Drew Lock is that guy. We will see. But I think their issue is quarterback, and I think that issue is going to be the end of the John Elway era as vice president or whatever the hell his role is now. Last but not least, we did not grade the Chargers. I give the Chargers an A-.
I agree. I give you an A-. I'm still not 100% sold on Herbert, but they have an offensive line that can block for them. They have a solid running game, and they have receivers. So it'd be up to this kid. The biggest fact I like is the kid Murray, the inside linebacker, who I had him slated going to actually, if he fell, to Kansas City. But if not, I had him going to the Raiders. My man got a hell of a motor, and I think he's a perfect fit. They lost Thomas Davis. Thomas Davis went back to be with Ron Rivera, so Thomas Davis is in Washington. And they really haven't had a solid linebacking core, even going before when they drafted Manti Te'o, which was a bust. So I think this kid is going to have a solid future. So I give them an A.
All right. To the defending Super Bowl champion, Kansas City Chiefs. What's your grade?
Right now, I'm going to give y'all a B. I like everything y'all have done. Y'all really don't need too much. I give A to the running back. I love y'all getting the kid from LSU. Y'all really didn't need anything outside of maybe I would have gone for maybe another wide receiver just because you're going to lose somebody out of the – I mean, you only got Robinson on a one-year deal. Eventually, y'all going to lose somebody. But, again, y'all really don't need anything, and the less the better because eventually all this is going to go to what Patrick Mahomes needs. But the running back situation is key. Now y'all got a two-headed monster where Damian Williams can go up in the middle and Clyde can go ahead and move around and be that Darren Sproles type back. So I rank y'all. Actually, I'm gonna rank y'all A- on that one.
Yeah,
y'all have a good. Yeah, he fell to y'all too, and it was perfect.
I'm gonna say this. You're much higher than me. Listen, I'm gonna put him B-. Right now. No. B. It's a B- or a C-, and I'm thinking D+. You didn't address cornerback, and to me, that's the Chiefs' biggest need. Rashad Breeland is okay. Shavarius Ward is okay. We need a cornerback, and we need a cornerback that can be a Pro Bowler. And we need that like yesterday. Yes, we won a Super Bowl. Yes, there's enough talent back there to perhaps win another one, perhaps. But at some point, you got to have somebody that can shut down the number one receiver. And these teams keep drafting receivers. And at some point, one of these guys that are okay aren't going to hold up enough in one game or two that you're going to run into trouble. So I think that's a glaring hole that did not get addressed. I think we probably could have got Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the second round. If not, there was another running back that could have been drafted. That hole was not as big to me as cornerback. And
now I will say this: Riggs, the one I had slated for y'all, he was available. Y'all didn't pick him.
He was available.
But AJ Terrell went way too high.
But Riggs was available. There was guys available, and Like, there was guys available in the third round, in the second round, and we did not address it. I do agree that we would have needed a running back. I don't think it was the number one concern, so I would have drafted a cornerback here. Everything else you drafted of need, except for even in the fourth round when you went and got Snead from Louisiana Tech, that's a safety, not a corner. And if you believe that Warren Thornhill is your guy, unless you're drafting a replacement for Tyrann Mathieu's new contract, why not go corner? Again, I'm okay with the TCU tackle, Niang. I think he's got a chance to be a starter. I think he's got a chance to be a replacement for Eric Fisher.
I like him a lot. I think he got a nasty streak that you need for that position.
I think
especially when you're going against Von Miller 2 times a year.
Yeah, and I think the diamond in here is Willie Gay Jr. If it's either a diamond or it's a turd. It's no in between for this one. It's either going to be a diamond or a turd, and I'm leaning towards this being the perfect locker room for him to be enough of himself that he can control his shenanigans and thrive, because he's got a lot of speed to burn. But if he is that turd, then that's why I say it could be a D+. Because if he's a turd, then this is a draft that I think is just a lot of lost opportunity.
Okay.
All right, you get the Chiefs an A. I got them a B- or C-, D+-ish. Houston Texans draft. We have to just grade just the draft and not the shenanigans that led to the draft. That's what we have to do with the Texans. The reason being because what happened outside of the draft is not what we're grading. We're not doing off-season grades here. We're doing draft grades. So let's just grade what they did in the draft.
I'm gonna give them actually a solid B. Reasoning is Ross Blacklock, the kid from TCU, defensive tackle, can fit right in. One, he's a local kid. He's from Missouri City. He lives in Sugar Land, or his family's from Sugar Land. And the fact of the matter is, he could be a perfect fill-in for the loss they had with DJ Reader. I think that's not a bad move. I don't like the wide receiver they picked. I think they went way too high for Isaiah Coulter. No one had this guy hired in. And actually, now I'm on 8 mock draft boards. Coulter was only slated for 1. The Texans did get another corner, actually another kid named Reed, John Reed, Penn State. I think he'll be special teams. Jonathan Greener from Florida, the edge rusher. I don't know a lot about him. He wasn't the main pass rusher on the University of Florida team, but he went 3rd round. He could pan out. I mean, if they're trying to draft people to go ahead and be an eventual replacement for J.J. Whitney Merciless, I get it. But I think they could have probably addressed the offensive line needs earlier. I'm not sold on a kid they drafted last year in the 1st round in Howard, and he was injured most of the season. So I give him a B. Actually, I'll give him a B-. They're addressing the needs that are on the team. They're addressing the needs of the team, but I'm just not sold on their. After Russ Blacklock, I'm not sold on them. So.
No, you good. I was talking to Johnny. You probably heard me. So I was going to ask you once we did their draft if you wanted to come back and finish the draft on Tuesday.
Yeah, we can. That's cool.
Okay. The Texans draft picks, to me, I think they're solid. I agree. B-. I think they created a need at wide receiver, and did not really address it until much later. John Reed's okay. I think Andy Heck was a reach. I mean, I'm sorry, that's his dad's name, the Chiefs coach. The Charlie Heck is a reach. I like Greener out of Florida. I think he's a solid edge rusher, and I think he's going to be a perfect complement or heir apparent to J.J. Watt now that you can finally start thinking about moving him along.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with you 100% about Blaylock. Or Blacklock, I'm sorry. They had a need right there because they let DJ Reader walk. They filled that need. I think they filled it with a pretty good player who's going to do every bit of what DJ Reader did or come close to doing it. And that's all you could ask for. So, yeah, that's what I got on the Texans.
And like I said, with Walt Poulter, I mean, it's a fifth-round pick that was slated to go 7th. When the Texans clearly have a glaring need at wide receiver, I didn't get it, but okay.
They don't see it. They think that they're two-headed monster with Kenny Stills. You still have Stills, and the couple games you're going to get out of Will Fuller if he ever plays healthy, like it can be a solid core if these guys can be healthy. And I can't go into a season predicting that they're going to be hurt, even though that's their history. They don't think they have that needed wide receiver. So I can see why they knew they had a need in the interior line because of DJ Reader. They know they have to have a solid backup or heir apparent to J.J. Watt, and I think they handled those two things. I think the tackle was a reach. B for Bill O'Brien.
Yeah. Well, he got one more pick left in the 7th round. We'll see what he's going to do.
Yeah. B for Bill O'Brien. Do you want to do the rest of the South?
How much time we got left?
Not a lot. We could just give
Nah.
grades.
What we'll do is we'll recap the whole entire draft on Tuesday.
We're going to start off with talking about those teams that we missed, do a grades on them. We will be back. Hopefully, I don't think we'll have as much movement or trade noise. I think the next pieces to fall is going to be what happens with these two quarterbacks out there, Cam Newton and Jameis Winston. I really think New England's going to be calling for one of those guys.
I agree.
Really soon.
Unless they draft somebody, because their main pick that they want was Fromm, and he's gone. He's in the rival with Buffalo, so I think you're right.
If they wanted him, they sure let him wait till the 6th round. They didn't want him that bad.
Yeah, that's true.
We'll be back Tuesday to recap the draft, talk about anything else that's happened in the league, hopefully have any type of news on maybe resuming the NBA season. We'll try to squeeze that in also, and hopefully next Friday we get the return of Omar Diggs. Until Tuesday, I'm Casey Reginald Jr.
It's your man J-Dub, Justin Waters in the building.
This is UnderDawg Sportz.